What if I told you the Quran, the Bible, and Torah are not the new revelations that happened in the Middle East, but in fact, it is the development of the ancient Egyptian Book of Dead? And what if we can find in these scriptures thousands of similarities with the concepts in the Book of Dead of ancient Egypt? What if the Quran, Bible, and Torah hold deep spiritual truths that are misunderstood, leading to sufferings and wars in the world? What if we could resolve these differences by understanding their true meanings and develop a scientific approach to all these wisdom of awakening consciousness? Hi, I am Jamaluddin. I am a researcher of consciousness through ancient wisdom and comparing it with science. So, to understand consciousness, I have been looking into all the spiritual scriptures and how they explained the steps of awakening consciousness. And one of the most fascinating and deeper wisdom that I have come across is in the ancient Egypt, especially the scripture we call as the Book of Dead. So, what made the ancient Egyptians to preserve their culture for more than 5,000 years and flourish as a civilization with their art, with their culture, with their architecture, with their literature, everything? And if you look around the world, there are not much civilizations which was so successful for more than 5,000 years. So, what I found in the ancient Egyptian culture was their meticulous study of consciousness, and they were the masters of the inner world, and they found the world that we live, the material world and the spiritual world, are in fact one once you understand and become coherent inner and outer. So they developed fantastic achievements in understanding consciousness in the ancient time. So they evolved into a society which is more awakened than our modern societies. So if you look into their life, their culture, their literature, everything revolved around understanding of the world through the outer world and through the inner world. So if you look into the hieroglyphics, which is known as the sacred language, is actually nothing but their observation of nature. They used their language, their writings, and their literature as what they found in the daily life. The animals, the reptiles, the birds, the tools they used, the trees. So whatever they found an inner wisdom in the concept, they took it as into their language. Why I think hieroglyphics is sacred language? Because from the point of view of consciousness, any person who understands the daily life of Egypt, ancient Egyptians, and they understand the concepts, they will be able to read the hieroglyphics language with effortless reading, or more of like an awareness. So how did this language is called sacred language? Because they wrote the wisdom of consciousness in their temples, in the pyramids, in the structures, whatever they built. And the specialty of the hieroglyphics language is a person who understood the concept of one symbol and what does the meaning involve, explain about that symbol, he can grasp it faster than what the letters and language we use today. So for example, they represented the baboon's screech. So baboons were like plenty available in part of Africa, and they understood that the screech of the baboon is something similar to what we can hear when you go deeper into meditation, the neural firing. So once a person starts to meditate and go deeper inside and starts listening his inner self, the first thing that he can hear is the screeching of the brain, the sound of working of the brain, the sound of the neural firing. So they represented this as the screech of baboon. So they know what was the sound of baboon, and they told the screech of baboon is similar to what you can hear inside your head. So that is why you can see the baboon in their literature, and baboon represented the screech of the neural firing. And that is why you can see a baboon sitting on the scale of weighing the heart. So we will be seeing deeper about this. So what I want to tell you is, so the hieroglyphics they developed were far advanced than the language that we have now today, because it was more like an awareness language, where people who know the baboon represented the screech of language, they could relate it with wherever the baboon picture symbol came in their language. So they had these around I think 800 to 900 representation of hieroglyphics, and a person who could understand all of this, if he enters into their temple, if they enters into their if he reads the Book of Dead, for him it is like an awareness much deeper than how we read our modern languages like English. But the hieroglyphics had a deeper connection with their already understood concept, so it was even faster. And what they meticulously documented on all these literature were nothing but the wisdom of consciousness. So they understood living one with the universe, one with the creator, inner and outer is the solution for eternal existence. So once they die from the three-dimensional world, or from the body, the physical body, they understood they exist as something like awareness or consciousness in another dimension. So they were researching how to preserve the consciousness of a person even when their body dies. So that is why they were trying to do mummification and everything. But as with every culture in the world, there has always been higher and lower in their levels of consciousness, and not it was always people were awakened. People were, most of the time, they misunderstood all these concepts, and even today we suffer because of the misunderstanding of the ancient Egyptians as well. So we will be coming into that topics as well. So I want to tell you that for thousands of years, the ancient Egyptian civilization held to the wisdom of consciousness, life and afterlife in their pyramid text, in the temple literatures, in their coffin text, etc. And all these wisdom they meticulously coded into a scripture called the Book of Dead. So the Book of Dead is actually a misunderstood title. In the ancient Egyptians called it as the book of coming to the flow. They told anhar, the flow state. So you can see the similar concept in the Quran, tajri min tahti al anhar, which means under their command in the flow state. So anhar means that traditionally people understood it as a rivers, but it means the flow state. The Book of Dead actually is not about the spells and mummies. It is the ancient text of step by step on how to awaken your consciousness. What happened when the Egyptian civilization was influenced by the Greeks, by the Romans, by the Assyrians, and by the continuous involvement of the external culture? After some time, the Egyptian civilization lost its connection with the hieroglyphics, lost its connection with the Book of Dead, and it died out. The language and the culture died out. So when the Egyptian civilization died out, there were people who understood their ancient wisdom. There were people who wanted to preserve this fantastic wisdom of consciousness. And I believe the people who wanted to preserve this consciousness into another language, into another culture. That is how the Book of Dead became the Quran, the Bible, and Torah of today. And I will be showing you the proof for which the similarities between the Book of Dead and these scriptures. I am proposing that the fundamental concepts of the Book of Dead about the consciousness and how to awaken a person are still visible in the Book Quran, in the Bible, and in the Torah. So, as I said, when the Egyptian civilization died out, the people who followed the teachings, they wanted to preserve this in a different culture, because as civilizations die out, there are always conflicts between the majority and the minority. And most of the time, one example was the effort of Akhenaten to unify the belief system of ancient Egypt and bring into uh, a monotheistic view. It's not actually monotheism, it is actually the ancient Egyptian civilization was scattered in their wisdom of consciousness. They started personifying the concepts too much. So people started believing in Amun, and they started fighting against the people who didn't believe in Amun. The people who supported Horus started fighting with the people who were believing in Seth. So this is how a higher wisdom, when they attach onto the concepts alone without understanding the deeper meaning, it will fall from its true understanding, and it will attach into it and become a misunderstanding. That is how every culture been around the world. So that is what's same happening in the followers of the Quran, Bible, and Torah as well. So instead of understanding the overall and full meaning of these scriptures, they try to attach and personalize the single concepts as Muslim, as Christians, as Judaizers, as Israelites, so all these words actually doesn't mean what they have attached themselves with. That is the same thing what happened to the people of ancient Egypt as well. So at the time of the king Akhenaten, he understood that people are too much attached with the concept of Amun, and Amun means stability, and through stability achieving stillness, that is Imn in the ancient Egypt. And the same word Amun can be found in Quran, which means Amana, or stability. And the same meaning is also there in the Quran. So the Quran tells how to achieve stability, and through practicing stability you can achieve Iman, or the concept of Imn from the ancient Egypt. So the same practice of how to achieve stability and stillness was misunderstood in the ancient Egypt at the time of Akhenaten by the followers as a god Amun. And when the people started too much of attaching into that concept, Akhenaten told to revive the concept and leave the attachment, but start nurturing your consciousness, the sun disk, the Aten. And I believe the word Aten is what became Elohim in the Hebrew, and what it became Allah in the Arabic. So there is a link between the fall of Egypt, and when the Akhenaten tried to revive, there were a lot of followers who were tortured and who came out of Egypt, and these people wanted to preserve this wisdom. So some people who settled in Petra, Jordan, and the part of Saudi Arabia, they were the people who originated Arabic, the Nabateans. The people who settled in Egypt itself, but tried to develop the ancient wisdom into something which the majority followers didn't follow. They are the followers like the Coptic Christians. And the people who were tortured in Egypt because of going against the majority belief of Amun, or the people who called as Hebrews, who developed a separate language and separate system of preserving their wisdom. So this cycle of the majority misunderstanding and it becoming a main concept, and when the minority developing something outside of that land, and it become evolving and it again misunderstanding, it is a pattern throughout the world. So how we can understand the deeper wisdom of consciousness of ancient Egypt is to look into what does the scriptures tells, the book of dead or the book of coming forth to the flow of ancient Egypt tells about this wisdom. So let us try to understand it. Here is a very famous scene from the book of dead, which is called the weighing of heart by Anubis. So how does this concept of weighing of heart became the concepts in Quran, Bible and Torah, and what is the link with the book of dead and these scriptures is what we are going to establish. So let us explain the symbolism or the hidden meaning of the book of dead and what does it actually mean. So the Anubis, the personification of a canine figure, canine-headed figure, which is actually means the Inpu in the ancient language. It is called Inpu, but the Greek version called it Anubis. But Inpu is what became In or Jinn in the Quran. So in the Arabic language, the Jinn, in the root meaning, it means the subconscious mind. So what is the consciousness wisdom that we can extract from this scene of a book of dead is, once you have the ability to tune through your conscious mind, so you can see the Inpu or Jinn or Anubis is actually tuning here something, tuning the baboon. So what is baboon? We already told you. Baboon is the representation of the neural firing. So if you can tune the brainwave, the sound of your brainwave to reach a frequency, to understand the coherent frequency in the brainwave through your subconscious, and if your heartbeat rhythm and has the feather actually means the math means order. So if your mind's order, actually there is no disorder in the mind, everything is in order, and if you through subconscious, if you can coherently tune your neural firing of subconscious mind, that is when you can awaken your mind into higher conscious world. So this was the representation of this was the meaning of weighing your heart against the math or feather by Inpu or your subconscious mind. So what does it say is, this actually tells us about a profound wisdom of the modern neuroscience, the biofeedback through by understanding the brain waves. So from my journey, I understood that the ancient Egyptians were talking about the biofeedback. Once you go into their resonant chambers, like their pyramids, their temples had niches where especially made according to the tuning of a particular purpose. So some temples had the resonant chambers or niches made to tune themselves into awakening particular thing in the subconscious mind. For example, some temples were tuned to develop awareness. So awareness or self-awareness is called Zokar in ancient Egypt. Zokar is a falcon-headed figure. This is Zokar, a falcon-headed figure, and what it became zikr in the Quran. Zikr means self-awareness. So the practice of tuning and understanding self-awareness by listening to your brainwaves coherence, the coherent frequency of your brainwave, is what became the concept of zikr in the Quran and the practices the Quran was telling to it. So there are each and every connections. I'll be trying to tell you this. So the baboon, the screech of baboon, which represented the neural firing, is what became Nuh or Noah in the later scriptures. So you may be, if you are familiar, uh, you know who is Noah and the story about Noah. So what really it represented was, in the ancient book of Dead in ancient Egypt, the screech of baboon represented uh, the neural sound. So in Noah or Nuh in the Quran, it means, in the Arabic root meaning, it means wailing or crying. So the screech of the baboon, or the wailing of the sound of your brainwave, is actually by listening to the sound of brainwave and avoiding the flooding of your mind with the incoherent brainwaves and destroying it, is what represented what became the story of Noah later, in the later understanding of Quran, Bible, and Torah. So the screech, if you still look today, the root meaning of Nuh in Arabic means the wailing or crying, which is the similar of screeching of baboons or falcons in ancient Egypt. The weighing of the heart became the concept of mizan in the Arabic, in the Quran. So the same thing was what later became the weighing, the scaling of moral scaling of good and bad, and actually it didn't represent the moral scaling of a person's according to good and bad, but the mizan in the concept of Quran, which means a scaling of the heartbeat rhythm, sudur, and the same thing, the same concept of the Book of Dead is what the Quran is also telling. If you try to understand the Arabic through its root meaning, and if you try to understand Quran, what you find is the ancient same concept of the Book of Dead. So another concept here is these all the 10 dimensions of consciousness, which is depicted here, is each one specifically mentioned in the Quran, and I believe that is there in the Bible and Torah as well. So this is actually the duality of the mind, where conscious and subconscious mind working differently, and this is the unification of the mind, atum, or which became Adam in the religious scriptures. And this is, as I said, zikr, and this is Naftis and Isis, or which Naftis means Nabba'a or Nabi. Insight, this is insight, and this is Isis became Malaika, or ability, the dimension. So each dimensions of consciousness is represented by ancient Egyptians, and the same concept was which became in the Quran, Bible, and Torah as well. And this is the representation of thought, which Jahuti or thought. And what I understood right now is the hieroglyphic symbol of the sacred ibis is what represented the thought or Jehuti. And what it means is, the ancient Egyptians observed that the crying of sacred ibis had a similar sound for the highest neural firing of the brain waves. So once you connect very deeper into your self, and you started listening to your higher consciousness, the highest sound that you will hear when you go very deep in consciousness is the sound similar to what the ibis bird, the sacred ibis bird, was sounding. So they represented thought as Jehuti, or the personification with the ibis head. So what thought in the Quran is Alameen, the Rabbul Alameen. So thought or Alameen is the same concept. So Alameen means all the record of understanding. I call it as the matrix of understanding, or Agashic records, or the same concept of so that is why thought is seen as a person who is writing with a ibis head. So what does it mean is um, they represented the Agashic record, the matrix where every person's understandings are stored as ibis, as a sacred ibis, the thought or Jehuti. And this is the representation of Imit, and what it means is a crocodile-headed a lion and cheetah, and a combination of a hippopotamus. So this represents the depression of the against. If you don't find coherence in your mind and heart and your breathing, if you live a life without coherence, what you will experience is Imit or Jahannam in the Quran, the depression of the depression in life. So it's an unpredictable animal. All are aggressive and who are mostly ferocious. So crocodile who attaches onto things, lion which is angry and powerful, and cheetah is always roaring and making sound, too much of sensitivity. Hippopotamus, oh, so much aggressive. So this is what represented the ancient Egyptians by creating a figure like Amit, which is a combination of all these ferocious animals. So, and they represented Horus as a mindfulness. So personification of mindfulness, where the subjective experience of mindfulness explained by the ancient Egyptian wisdom was when you awaken your mind, your self-awareness, that is Zokar here, and you further awaken your self-awareness to even higher, and when you are able to become aware of your sensations and feelings of the moment without judging or without involving into incoherences, that is when you are mindful. So they represented mindfulness with Horus, and in the later they even represented the mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness with cobra symbol, Vajjo or Urius cobra, which represented the idea of preserving your mindfulness vision. So that is how we can see in the face mask of Tutankhamun the Urius symbol of cobra, and you can see all these representation had inner meanings, and the same inner meaning, the concept of Vajju or Urius snake, is what became taqwa in Quran, and the root meaning of taqwa is waqa'a, which is actually the same as Wajju in the ancient Egypt, which means to preserve, and same meaning is what we can find if you check in the root meaning of Arabic for what is taqwa, which is waqa'a, which means preserve. So preserving your mindfulness is what means to be have the meaning of cobra in the head of Tutankhamun. So I explained some of the similarities which we have with Quran, Bible, and Torah with the ancient Egyptian scriptures, and there are thousands of other similarities, which I can say, like Atum became Adam, Amun or Imn became Iman, or Amanu, Mu'min in the Quran, and still the Christians, Jews, and every people used to say Amin or Amen after the prayer, and it is actually derived from the ancient Egyptian culture. So, and the concept of Musa is actually, if you look into the root meaning of what is Musa, it means feeling. So the feeling is the your highest function in the mind, which can bring coherence to every other lower function, and which can connect you to your higher consciousness as well. So if you can feel your intuition and your energy, And if you can feel your sensations, your all other downward functions of the mind, that is how you create coherence. That is through your feelings. You were feeling yourself deeper is how you evolve your mind. That is why Quran talks about a lot of about Musa, and Musa means feelings. And there are a lot of other concepts, as Egyptians misunderstood Amun as God and Akhenaten have to revive it. The same thing happened in the Quran, Bible, and Torah as well. For example, there is a concept called tahan in ancient Egypt, which means to pierce or pierce to your higher consciousness, and the symbolism is obelisk, which is a Greek term, and the ancient Egyptians called it as tahan. So what does it mean is to pierce your higher conscious. The similar concept is there in all the three scriptures, and it is called Ibrahim. So Ibrahim, if you check the Arabic root word, Ibr means to pierce, to prickle. So the concept of prickling or piercing to your higher consciousness is what is Ibrahim means. So Ibrahim became a personified figure, and later people misunderstood it as a history, and the whole religion became attached onto that person and the story of Ibrahim. But in fact, the concept of Ibrahim was same what we can see in the ancient Egypt as piercing to your higher conscious. So there are many more examples of how we misunderstood each concepts of ancient Egypt, the wisdom of consciousness, and when people try to revive, like Akhenaten tried to revive, there were oppression and conflicts, and people migrated from Egypt to other parts of the world, and they tried to preserve these in by creating different languages, by living in a different life, and that also was a wonderful effort. I would say Quran actually means, the Arabic word Quran means reading. So the whole practices of Quran is to read your brainwave, the frequency of your brainwave, by listening to it and bringing coherence and awakening your zikr, awakening your self-awareness, practicing taqwa, developing mindfulness, and achieving consciousness, the Rabb, and becoming, witnessing Allah, or becoming the supreme consciousness as one. That is what is La ilaha illallah. And the same concept is what is in the Bible, but as Quran was concentrating on reading of the mind, coherence of the mind, the Bible was different in its approach, and the Torah was different in approach, but all tried to achieve one thing, what is awakening of consciousness, and that root wisdom is from ancient Egypt. So what I believe right now is Muhammad, Jesus, and Musa actually are not people. Muhammad is actually, in the Quran, Muhammad means which is derived from hamd. So the root word hamd means in acceptance or to approve. So what Muhammad means, in acceptance or in approval. So Muhammadur Rasulullah means in acceptance of the intuition of Allah. So the practice of accepting the intuition of Allah is what is to communicate with the supreme consciousness, or to have connection, direct contact with the creator, is to listen to the intuition. That is what it means. So the same thing happened with Jesus. Isa in the Arabic word is in the root meaning, it means proper order. So Isa ibn Maryam means achieving proper order. In Ibnu means achieving proper order in the mind through seeking. So Isa ibn Maryam is not personalities, they are the concepts of awakening the mind. So how did people, when attach into these concepts and create history, they will create personalities which are not real. But what I believe is Muhammad ibn Abdullah may be a master of the ancient wisdom. He might be a person who have dedicated his life but through approaching meditation and understanding what is he might have received a channel of experiencing a channel to the higher consciousness or to the creator through meditation and contemplation, and he might have understood the concept of ancient Egyptian wisdom in the Book of Dead, and he might have tried to revive. And there are a lot of misunderstandings in the history of religion, because most of the stories are created by the people who are deeply attached to these concepts, and they created what they wanted to see. But most of the time it are not in it will always conflicting it with the scripture itself. And my aim is to there are a lot of conflicts happening in the world because of this misunderstanding. So because we misunderstood some scientific approach to awaken the mind, the wisdom which is to awaken the mind is becoming the main reason for the fall of the human society as a whole. So as when Akhenaten tried to revive ancient Egyptians to a unified way of understanding consciousness, the people who didn't understand it, the people who believed in Amun as a god, they were revolting, and even the powerful Akhenaten was erased from the history of ancient Egypt. So the same thing is happening again and again by the followers, by the blind fans of Quran, by the blind fans of Bible, by the blind fans of Torah. But in fact, in all these scriptures, there is enough wisdom to awaken the whole human being, to use their mind and to understand how to live a life of oneness with the Creator, and not just believe, but to feel and experience the Creator's presence in every human being. So what I think, after understanding all this deep research, what I was thinking that I want to create a unified view of all these scriptures. So all these scriptures is talking about how to awaken the mind. So the scientifically, if you see the mind, we can understand the mind through brain waves. The easiest technology I had was EEG, or electroencephalography, and by understanding the practices and from the experience point of view, I have developed a system called Mind Fitness, which can see in real time the stages of mind. So what is the ancient Egyptians tried to classify into this 10 classification is something like what we can do right now with Mind Fitness. The Mind Fitness is an application which I have developed inspired from the ancient Egypt. So what it does is we can see in real time the brain waves of a person classified according to mental functions. So from my trial and error and my deep research into consciousness, what I understood was the better way to look into the brainwave is to understand each mind function separately from the brainwaves. So these are the brainwave frequency bands that I have understood. So thinking, cognition, emotion, attention, sensation, feeling, energy, intuition, reasoning. So all these are what we saw here, or something even more than that. So what the ancient Egyptians tried to classify the dimensions of consciousness, that is what exactly we can understand from the brainwave as well. So the first thing that we do with our mind is, once we get an information, we think. So that is what we can see here. So this is how the frequency band associated with thinking was during my meditation session. So there is the features like ability, wandering, and so by understanding how was the brainwave frequency associated with the mind function is working at a particular moment, by looking at how much it is wandering, how much is instability, if there is any breach of order, and we can understand the efficiency of that mind function. So that is what exactly the ancient people was trying to do. Once they went into their chambers, the resonant chambers, what they were trying to do, the ancient Egyptians were trying to do, was avoid mind wandering. They represented it with Seth, which became Shaitan in the Quran. The avoid mind wandering and avoid instability, and the stability is represented by Amun. And achieve Iman, achieve stillness in the mind. If you achieve proper stillness and avoid mind wandering and instability, that is when you can achieve clarity in your consciousness. So if you have a unstable thinking and then a wandering thought, it is actually an inefficient way of using the mind. The efficient way of using the mind is to avoid mind wandering, avoid instability, be still in the mind, and be in the order. And that is what the ancient Egyptians represented by Mat. So if you keep your mind in the order, so what does it mean by order is, there is a order which every mind function has to follow, and the frequency band is always in that order. So when there is a disorder in the mind, that means the frequency band associated with thinking, if we have a thinking disorder like overthinking disorder, it will go above the cognition and emotion or reasoning, understanding, etc. So the mind fitness system is capable to detect if there is any mental health disorder, and we have found many mental states and mental health disorders like overthinking disorder, anxiety, judgmental issues, emotional disorder, cognitive disorder, attention disorder. So all these disorders are visible in a scientific way, and this is a system which can use the ancient wisdom of Egypt, Quran, Bible, and Torah to awaken the consciousness of the mind of people. So when I was understanding the deep wisdom of Quran and the link with the ancient wisdom of Egypt, the Book of Dead, I understood I have to develop some scientific method to make people believe that it's not all mind concepts, it is actually a scientific approach of awakening consciousness. So for last 4 or 5 years I have been trying to develop this, and I hope this can give a experience of awakening and documenting, ability to document your mind and heart and your breathing with the ancient wisdom of Egypt. My idea of trying to go deeper and find the link between the Book of Dead and the Bible, Quran, and Torah is not to hurt anyone's faith, but to understand the deeper meaning, deeper message, or the real practice of these scriptures to awaken the consciousness. So the problem that we can see in the world right now is the people who attach these concepts, the mental concepts of these scriptures, and they fight each other. So it is actually like the people who believe Elohim, people who believe the creator as Elohim, fighting with the people who believe the creator as Allah. But in root meaning, both are same. So the same thing is happening everywhere. The mind is getting divided. So unless you use your mind, understand your mind and awaken your mind, always the mind will divide itself and find conflicts. So that is actually what the first thing that we need to understand. If you don't have a unified mind, if you don't have a non-dual mind, the mind will always find a way to divide, and it will create conflict and fight in the world. So the only thing we can, the only solution is make all these spiritual practices as an experience. So experience, once you experience, feel and sense in your inner self that the deeper experience of oneness with the creator, we cannot personify it, we won't be able to we cannot define experiences with words. So every person experience the true deeper happiness and satisfaction once you get into these practices, it will help them to come out of going and dividing and attaching onto these mind concepts. If you like my effort of unifying the Quran, Bible and Torah with the ancient wisdom of Egypt on awakening consciousness, and my effort to scientifically develop a system inspired by this ancient wisdom, follow my work and follow my channel, and you can visit mindfitness.app, and you can use the modern neuroscience tool like Muse EEG device to document in real time your mind and understand your mental health according to the classification of your mind functions. And you can use the biofeedback system, because the resonance, we don't have access to resonant chambers, but what we can emulate is create a biofeedback system similar like resonance. So once you become calm, the system can give a feedback. So in mind fitness system, we can give a biofeedback for setting into various different mind and experiences like calmness, security in the mind, well-being, self-awareness, mindfulness, consciousness, etc. So this is a new approach of joining the ancient wisdom and the science, and creating the true experience of awakening the mind. So if you are interested in this concept, please like and follow the channel. Spread my humble effort to decode the deeper meanings in these spiritual scriptures, and let me know your views and your ideas about these similar concepts in the comment. And thank you for being with me. We'll see you in the next video.